You
Yeah.
seem to be a person that, I mean, if you're writing a book and you said thousands of blog posts and you're producing other people's board games, highly industrious. Like once you get started on something and you complete it, is this something that you have to focus on, that you have to force yourself to do, or is it just natural for you to be so productive?
I don't, well, productive, it's a nice compliment. Thank you. I don't know if I'm always productive. There's certainly things that I procrastinate about. And if I do procrastinate about something, I often try to delegate it to somebody else. I'm realizing, hey, I'm just not having fun with this. I can pay somebody else to do it, and maybe they're much better at it, or they have fun doing it. But there's a lot, I create a lot of different content. And I think what I found is that if I am excited about any form of content, whether it's my YouTube channel, my Kickstarter blog, whatever it is, if I'm excited about it, I'll sustain it. And if I'm not excited about it, if I stop being excited about it, I stop doing it. So I found the things that I'm excited about, and I found how often I want to do them to remain excited about it. Like my YouTube videos, I do 3 a week, and I do 2 short ones and 1 long video. And I enjoy that. If I tried to do 5 long videos a week, I would no longer get joy out of that. I would stop enjoying it. So I kind of found that sweet spot. Have you found that for yourself too? Like if you recorded 10 of these podcasts a day, would you get burned out? Like what is the sweet spot for the amount of
No, I wouldn't even blink. I mean, and I'm the same way about the finding ways to delegate the parts that become uninteresting. So for a while, I did every single aspect of the podcast, where I would go and I would edit it and I would do all the little work. And eventually I came to the thing of, I've learned everything I need to learn for this part of it. It was important that I did it, but I don't want to do it anymore. And I think the hardest thing for me about doing the podcast is not overreaching, because in order to do a really interesting conversation, I have to be alert and awake and have myself, because if I'm distracted, then my ability to listen to you doesn't work. And so for me, it's don't push the other things in my life so hard that they make this thing crash. And the way that I solve that is by having as many patterns and routines as possible. And like I had asked you that question before about your younger self, my younger self would absolutely hate how many routines and patterns I have and how much I won't let myself stop. But I wake up at this time and I take care of the baby at this time and I exercise at this time. And I have to do it in order that the thing that I love the most, having a conversation with a total stranger, it gets to be at its absolute maximum.
That's awesome. That's a nice outward way of focusing, of thinking about that too. That ultimately you're thinking about yourself there, but you're also thinking about the random stranger that you're having a conversation with. Are you going to go into this conversation tired because of all these other things that you have to deal with? Or do you find the structure so that you can be at your best self when you have these conversations? That's awesome. I like that you do that.
Yeah, and I think like yours is a good example. I find that it's good for me to be a little afraid, right? Like if I'm doing interviews where I'm like, this one's going to be in the bag, it's going to be really easy, or then I find it's probably going to be boring for me, and I think it tends to be boring. But the conversations when I'm like, I don't know anything about games. I mean, maybe this is a 10-minute conversation and then we just, get bored and walk away. So for me, in order for me to be up on the edge of chaos, which is where the wave is the most fun, it has to be something I'm a little afraid of.
That's interesting. Add a little fear there. I experienced that, I would say, on the meta level, in terms of if I fail, my company fails, my source of income fails, and I fail a number of other people that depend on Stonemaier games. I don't know if I feel that every day, but I feel the pressure to move forward, to always have a next step, to plan ahead, to have progression, and to ultimately succeed in at least some of the products that we produce.
So it has to be difficult as you've built a business that is, from what it sounds like, very stable, very strong. You've built it up. So in order to continue to have that being on the edge means, do you have to take bigger risks? Like, how do you keep finding that edge of chaos for yourself?
I think I don't know if it comes down to chaos necessarily, or even bigger risks. But I think the game industry has grown quite a bit. It's harder to stand out now, basically. And so if I want to create a new product, and we don't release many new products. We release maybe 1 or 2 new games a year at most. I need it to be something special. I only choose games that I think will be games that we can reprint for years, because we put so much effort into creating that initial product. I don't want it to just be one that we sell one print run of. So I want it to be one that will reprint for a long, long time, that will be sustainable, because it's much easier to hit reprint than to spend all that time and effort on the initial product. So it's really a continued search for products that will stand out and stand out in a sustainable way, which is, there's no magical formula for it. It's sometimes it's hit and miss, but I kind of just do my best to figure out what I think will fit that mold.
Thanks for checking out this podcast short. If you like this interview, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and hit that bell so you always get notified about this podcast. And if you're really interested in conversations like this, you may want to consider joining the Articulate Ventures Network. To find out more, go to network.articulate.ventures.